Tyrion Lannister is widely considered the smartest character in Game of Thrones. The political genius, the master strategist, the man who can outthink everyone else in the room. And yet, many of Tyrion's biggest decisions end in failure. His plans collapse in Meereen. He repeatedly underestimates the people around him, and in the end, he misjudges the very ruler he chooses to serve. Many fans blame the bad writing. They argue that the later season simply made Tyrion less intelligent. But what if the explanation is based on a false premise to begin with? What if Tyrion never stopped being intelligent? Rather, he was never a true strategist in the first place. In this video, I want to explore a different interpretation of Tyrion Lannister, not as a failed mastermind, but as a man whose intelligence was always misunderstood. And once we look at his story through that lens, many of the most puzzling moments in Game of Thrones start to make much more sense. Let's begin with a simple distinction. Cleverness wins the argument. Strategy reshapes the world. Cleverness means reacting quickly. It means thinking on your feet. It means navigating difficult conversations and finding short-term solutions. Tyrion excels at this. Throughout the series, he constantly talks his way out of danger. He reframes problems. He improvises under pressure. But strategy is something very different. Strategy means reshaping the structure of power. It means building alliances that last, creating institutions, and leaving behind advantages that still exist even without direct presence. When he judged Tyrion by that yardstick, the picture changes dramatically. He is brilliant at managing crisis, but he rarely turns those moments into lasting political power. This pattern appears again and again throughout his story. To see it clearly, we need to look at two key stages of Tyrion's career, King's Landing and Meereen. Tyrion's reputation as a political genius largely comes from his time in King's Landing. When he arrives as the acting hand of the king, the capital is full of corruption, rivalries, and hidden plots. Tyrion quickly demonstrates his intelligence. He exposes Grand Maester Pycelle. He manipulates the small council. He reorganized the city watch. And of course, there is the Battle of Blackwater. Tyrion's use of wildfire to destroy Stannis Baratheon's fleet is one of the most dramatic moments in the entire series. It is often cited as a proof that Tyrion is a strategic mastermind. But if we examine the outcome carefully, a different picture begins to emerge. The wildfire plan is tactically brilliant. It saves the city in the moment, but it does not fundamentally change the balance of power in Westeros. The decisive factor in the battle is still the arrival of Tyrion Lannister and the Tyrell army. The moment Tywin secured an alliance with the Tyrells, Stannis Baratheon had effectively already lost the war. And after the battle, Tyrion's position actually becomes weaker. He gains no royal faction in the court, he builds no durable alliances, and he leaves behind no institutional base of power. When Tywin returns to the King's Landing, Tyrion simply disappears from authority, as if he had never ruled at all. And this is the recurring pattern of Tyrion's politics. He identifies problems correctly, but he never restructured the environment that created those problems in the first place. To understand the difference, consider Littlefinger for a moment. Tyrion suspected him early on. He even confronted him indirectly, but he never isolated him politically. He never dismantled his network, and he never removed him from the board. As a result, Littlefinger successfully framed Tyrion twice, first through the dagger plot, and later through the assassination of Joffrey, yet never faced any real consequences. Littlefinger, by contrast, does something very different. He does not simply argue with people. He rearranged the entire political landscape around them. Tyrion debates individuals and solves immediate problems. Littlefinger reshapes the board itself. Tyrion's limitation become far more visible in Meereen. Many viewers argue that Tyrion was simply placed in an impossible situation, but that explanation is too generous. The real problem is that Tyrion fundamentally misunderstands what kind of a political system Meereen actually is. Tyrion learned politics in Westeros, a feudal system built on negotiation among powerful houses. Compromise is normal, alliances shift constantly, and no single ruler fully dominates the political landscape. Meereen is not that kind of system. It is the revolutionary regime. Daenerys did not simply take power in Meereen. She destroyed the entire social order that existed before, an order built on slavery. That means the surrounding slave cities do not see Meereen as a normal rival. They see it as an existential threat. If Meereen survives, it proves that a slave system can be overthrown. So from their perspective, the city must be erased. But Tyrion fails to grasp this structural reality. When he negotiates with the former masters and proposes temporal restoration of slavery, he believes he is offering a pragmatic compromise. But in revolutionary politics, symbolism is everything. For the former masters, Tyrion's proposal signals weakness. For the freed slaves, it signals betrayal. And for neighboring slave cities, it confirms that Meereen is unstable and vulnerable. The result is exactly what we saw in the show: invasion and political chaos. Tyrion treats slavery as a policy variable, but in Meereen, objection to slavery is the foundation of the entire regime. The final stage of Tyrion's story appears in his conflict with Varys. At first glance, their disagreement seems to be about Daenerys, but the deeper difference lies in how each man understands political responsibility. Varys represents something political theorists sometimes call reason of the state. In this view, the survival of the political system matters more than personal loyalty. If a ruler becomes a danger to the realm, then the ruler must be removed, even if the act feels morally disturbing. This is why Varys is willing to plot against Daenerys. Tyrion, however, cannot take that step. He may understand the reason of a state intellectually, but he cannot inhibit it psychologically. Tyrion sees himself as a counselor, not an executioner of a political necessity. So, when he discovers Varys' plan, he exposes him. This moment is often interpreted as loyalty or cowardice, but it is better understood as a boundary. Tyrion refused to assume authority that has not been explicitly given to him. Without a legitimate mandate, he chooses to preserve the existing order, even when he suspects the order may be collapsing. Varys is politically correct because he is willing to become inhuman. Tyrion remains human precisely because he cannot. Seen this way, throughout the series, Tyrion solves crises, but rarely reshapes the system that produces them. Tyrion Lannister's arc is not the story of a genius who suddenly became foolish. It is the story of a specific kind of intelligence being misunderstood. Tyrion is not a military commander. He's not a grand strategist. And he's not a builder of a political system. Instead, he is something else entirely, a master advocate. Like an experienced litigation lawyer, Tyrion excels at mitigating damage and reframing disasters and persuading people in moments of crisis. Those skills are extremely valuable, but they're not the same as strategic leadership. And perhaps that is what makes Tyrion such a relatable character. In a world defined by cruelty, vengeance, and paranoia, he never fully abandoned his humanity. Given his character arc in the show, no one would have blamed him if he had turned fully towards spite and resentment. Yet, he keeps his moral code until the very end, continuing to show empathy for those with less power. He never becomes Littlefinger, he never becomes Tywin, and he never becomes Daenerys. Tyrion may not build empires, but he survives the game without losing himself. And in the brutal world of Game of Thrones, That is no small achievement.